Black Science Review by John E. Lai. Black Science, Volume 1, How to Fall Forever, was written by Rick Remender, drawn by Matteo Scalera, painted by Dean White, lettered by Russ Wooten, and edited by Sebastian Gerner. This comic was published by Image Comics. The first volume of the series collects its first 6 issues and is 160 pages long. I feel that I should emphasize that this is not a true graphic novel, it is a compilation volume. While each issue contains its own 3-act structure, if you were to examine the comic book volume as a whole, the first act would end with the first issue of the series, and the second act would end with the beginning of the 6th issue of the book, and the third act would end with the end of the volume itself. For those of you who don't know, Black Science is, well, imagine Lost in space, mixed in with sliders, and throw in a good bit of darkness for measure and print that on a comic book. That's the story in a nutshell. The comic focuses on Grant, a genius scientist who has constructed a device that allows him to travel between alternate realities. However, while taking his kids and wife to actually see the device one day, it malfunctions, and him, along with a few other of the laboratory staff where he works at, are transported to another dimension. And so begins their quest to find their way home. While the goal of the series is clear from the get-go, the resolution has not been achieved yet. The series has just finished its latest arc, which is, I think, issue number 34, and we're still not done. While I wish I could say there was great character development in the first volume, there's not. We do get little snippets of the characters, their core personalities and such, but the big character developments, the real growing, that happens in much later issues. If anything, the first 6 issues of the series, the first volume, they serve to set up the premise of the story, the kind of tone it has, and what we should expect going forward. I will say this about Black Science. The plot is great, and once you start reading that first issue, you immediately get hooked in. The flow of the comics is very smooth, and by the time you're done reading the first issue, let alone the first volume, you're already hungry for more. Looking at all the panels within the volume and reviewing Scott McCloud's ideas of transition, the two that are primary within the story are moment-to-moment and action-to-action panels. Because, as obviously shown, it is a action-oriented piece. The reader, in my opinion, doesn't have any trouble following along with the action and imagining the things that are happening in their mind's eye. There are some time jumps that happen here and there, but thanks to the use of captions there, they resolve any confusion that might happen. If anything, the most confusing thing in this story might be the reappearance of certain characters, but that delves into spoileratory and no spoilers. The device of the mini-comic doesn't appear throughout this series, but I don't think that detriments the story in any way. And now the million-dollar question, would I recommend this to my fellow students and my friends? And for both groups, I would say yes. This series, while mature and dark, is very entertaining, and you quickly grow invested in the fates of the main characters. And every arc or so, it does something new. It throws in a new wrench into things that spices things up, and you're always asking yourself, how are they going to get out of this situation? What's next? Because just when things seem to get absolutely horrible, they manage to pull a miracle out of thin air, and they're able to scrape by just right into another horrible situation. It's that kind of comic. I do, however, have some notes of interest for potential readers. First off, if you feel like certain plot points have been dropped in issues, don't worry. Even if it takes 5 issues or 10 issues, they usually come back. Everything comes full circle in this series. Don't worry about that. And again, I have to repeat myself. This is a very mature, emotional, and dark series, especially the God World arc. Once you start reading it, you cannot help but do some introspection on yourself, and it gets pretty deep quickly. I really hope I did a good job of convincing all of you to go out there and pick up this trade paperback. Already the seventh volume has been released into comic shops, so don't worry, you have plenty to catch up on, and that's a good thing. The recent arc, as I said, has just ended, and who knows where they're going next. This has been Jake Lyde with his review of Black Science Volume 1, How to Fall into Forever, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.